Hey there guys, Shingirai here again with another update on portfolio performance over the past week. On a 1 week basis, we saw 10 out of 10 of the CBAM portfolios outperform their respective benchmarks, with returns ranging from CBAM 5 returning minus 0.48% up to CBAM 1 returning minus 0.09% on a relatively risk-off week, as investors really began to weigh the outlook for global economies coming into the new year and factoring in some of those recessionary risks in an environment where interest rates are still rising, fueled by central banks across the world. In terms of top performers, in terms of performance on the week, we did see some performance from that continuing ongoing China reopening trade, and that would see Bailey Gifford up 1.65% on the 1 week basis, alongside HSBC MSCI China up about 1.5%. Although I'll note this week China would be noting their Lunar New Year, and that would see most Chinese markets closed for the course of Monday to Friday this week and coming back online looking into next week, Monday. We also saw some strength from Japanese government bonds, up 1.2%, as the Bank of Japan continues to emphasize its yield curve control system, which would not allow the 10-year yield for Japanese government bonds to go above 0.5%, and thereby supporting the prices of Japanese government bonds there. In terms of detractors from performance, we did see some pullback from US equity markets after a strong rally last week, a 2-day strong rally on the back of some support there for tech stocks, as investors modeled a slower rate of increases down to 0.25% expectation for the Federal Reserve Bank in their February meeting, and that would also see just some pullback from that trade and some profit taking, seeing JP Morgan US equities down 2.87%. And then again, we saw some weakness in terms of dollar there, down 1.34%, also being a contributing factor in terms of performance of US markets, down 1.34% on the week as well. Switching over to a quarter-to-date basis, we saw 8 out of 10 of the CBAM portfolios outperform their respective benchmarks in what's been a relatively risk-on quarter-to-date basis, with investors really coming into the new year with a bit of optimism on around some level of capitulation in central bank interest rate hikes, and that would lead to equity markets really leading out strong coming into the new year. And then in terms of top contributors to performance, we continue to see that China trade translating through Bailey Gifford China and SHBC MSCI China, and then naturally overlapping to strength that we've seen from strong derating previously last year in terms of European equities, but coming the reopening trade for China being a net positive for European equities, as China represents about 10% of European exports going to China, and that reopening trade really bringing back online consumer discretionary funds and luxury brands such as LVMH, etc. And then you'd also see that performance from Bailey Gifford European up 10.64% on the back of a warmer than expected winter in Europe as well. In terms of detractors from performance, we continue to see dollar weakness down 2.77% versus sterling on the quarter-to-date basis, and that would translate to some of the weakness we see for JP Morgan US equity income positions, down more than 1.8% on a quarter-to-date basis. But then again, we also see some weakness and downgrades in the outlook for equity Indian subcontinent growth expectations, and that would see the Indian economy not expected to grow as much as previously forecast, down 1.28%. And then also some interest rate sensitivity in terms of Hypnosis Songs Trust, and that would see the position down 1.16% on a quarter-to-date basis. Looking ahead, this week we've seen some PMI data also indicating some expectations from continued weakness in economies across Europe, the United Kingdom and United States, but we did see some encouraging signs coming out of services PMI from Europe and also Japan. And looking ahead, we do look forward to the Q4 GDP numbers from the United States coming out on Thursday as well going forward.